So that's just some examples of how to merge that diagnostic and progress monitoring data as you move forward. You're really thinking about the progress monitoring data as a way to tell you that instruction generally is working or not working, and then that diagnostic data to help you understand what needs to happen next if a change needs to be made. It really helps you adapt and fine-tune or tweak, if you will, the instruction you're delivering. So to wrap up, today we talked a little bit in this module about diagnostic and mastery assessment. It's a little bit different than the progress monitoring using CBMs as general outcome measures that we've talked about. That's another key assessment piece of our DBI model. We first talked a little bit about diagnostic assessment, and we discussed how to create measures that might assess particular skills. We talked about using your CBMs and going back and analyzing the errors from those, even thinking about how to go back and categorize those miscues. And then we talked about how to develop particular curriculum-based assessments where we set mastery levels, create multiple forms, and then we give these over time. These might even be termed as common formative assessments that you could use with a grade level team, for instance, or at a middle school level, even with a content area team, like a science team that creates these assessments that you're going to use to look at mastery over time. Finally, we wrapped up by talking about how to integrate some of these different types of data we have, progress monitoring data, diagnostic data, and then thinking about next steps in your journey on how to take this and implement it in your classroom or your field setting. So I want you to think more about mastery assessments you could utilize in your own classroom or field experience. In your workbook, journal and answer the following questions. 1, how would you decide what content to focus on? In the example that you created earlier, perhaps you actually thought about already some content that's being delivered and some standards that you're hoping to meet. So how would you decide the content? What would be your first steps in creating the materials? And then when and to whom will you administer these measures? If you're a little nervous about getting started with these steps, I'd recommend just to start with one student first, create some measures that are targeted to skills that these students, that particular student needs, and then you can broaden to include more students. So go ahead and spend a bit of time here answering the following questions in a journal entry in your workbook, and then I want you to talk a little bit with someone next to you or with a small group about your answers to these questions.